Welcome back to Market on Close. The shares of Micron are on the rise today after BNP Paribas double upgraded shares to outperform from underperform and nearly tripled the price target from $270 from the street low previously of $100. The firm says it now fully embraces high bandwidth memory as a sustainable separate growth vector and believes that Micron and the market are in the early innings of a memory super cycle. So with that, I do want to bring in Alex Coffey joining us today for Options Corner. Alex is here to talk, of course, about Micron, co-host of Next Gen Investing, and such a rare thing to see this double upgrade and also the conversion of arguably the biggest doubter on the street, having previously had the street low target of $100 to now the street high of $270 at BNP Paribas.
Yeah, and it doesn't really bring a ton of confidence to you when you've been that wrong. To have someone then completely flip the cards over, you do wonder maybe if this is a little capitulation on their part. But I think the sentiment, this is Carl Ackerman over at BNP Paribas, as you said, is pretty much in line with the consensus, which is that we're watching this AI build out work its way to different parts of whether it's semiconductors or cloud storage or whatever it may be, and that these memory bandwidth chip makers, of which Micron is in many ways, I think, the best in class for this particular space, certainly one of them. This is that next area. Now, the big thing that you can't discount, despite the fact that, of course, it's running up quite a bit today. This isn't like some untapped area of the market, though. I mean, this stock has more than tripled since March. You can't ignore that. So it was $61.54 at its lows. It touched 200 last week sometime. It's $192 now, and this after, of course, another 6% jump today.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, that you mentioned like they've been a big already beneficiary of this AI spending boom, and high bandwidth memory is now sort of cementing its place as a central feature in this AI build-out structure. But like you said, Micron's already been on some pretty substantial upward moves as that's been an ongoing story. And then last month they gave their revenue forecast stronger than expected as well. So, pretty meaningful boost off of there, up 128% year to date right now. So with all that said, as we were looking at options activity on the heels of this upgrade, what did today look like, in terms of volume and calls to puts, et cetera?
Yeah, if you were to look at today's volume, it wasn't necessarily anything dramatic in terms of the actual amount of options trading hands, but that makes sense. I mean, Friday was a really busy day for one, it being an expiration day, two, being super, super volatile. That's going to skew sort of your last 5 days or so of average, but a healthy 161,000 contracts changed hands today. Close to 110,000 of those were calls, which in that case kind of outpaced puts by a factor of 2, which definitely does say that there's a lot more call demand than there was put demand. The majority of the options, of course, trading between the markets, you can't necessarily discern if they were bought or sold, but the ones that traded at the bid or at the ask, certainly more of them being bought than sold. So you could say some of that call demand was probably speculators looking for more upside along this rally. At the same time, many of the puts were sold, which would indicate something similar. When I look at this particular stock, though, 6% jump, quite a bit of volatility priced in for this week. One standard deviation range would be somewhere around $11, $12 to the upside or the downside. So you're looking probably, if that were just to stay within that range, let's say 180 to 205, and it's pretty healthy, 10% or so in terms of the pocket, and that's just for the next 4 trading days.
And is that also where we saw the highest open interest in that range?
Well, because this is a monthly cycle, some of these numbers are going to include options that have traded for a long period of time. Certainly today, in terms of volume, in this week's expiration, the 200 strike call is the most active. And that makes sense, right? It's sort of your big round number. It's certainly within the expected move for this week. In fact, it has about a 60% chance of touching. It is the most call open interest just generally. 10,000 or so before I came on call options had traded at that strike. And I just said only like 110,000 total calls traded today. So you're talking about a pretty sizable chunk of the overall call volume just in that one strike. But the max pain or the highest open interest in general is actually way down at 160 with some of those puts that are still remaining from previous moves. But, we're talking 6% probability of touch by the end of the week. So if that comes into play, potentially pain there, but more than likely it won't.
Well, Alex, we appreciate you being with us for Options Corner today, talking all things Micron for us and some of those headlines that we've been seeing.